Yes, ma'am. Mr. Fleming?
Here.
Mr. Tolles?
Here.
Ms. Wilbanks?
Here.
Ms. O'Connell?
Here.
And Dr. Pritchard?
Here.
Damn, son.
Chair Sharp?
Here.
We have a quorum, and I'm just looking. I think that's all we have. Yes, we have a quorum. Oh, Mr. Gill?
Here.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Ragsdale. I would like to remind you that copies of today's agenda are located at the front right podium if you need them. If you wish to be a speaker on any case that is on today's agenda, please fill out an attendance speaker's card located at the front podiums. Once you have filled out the card, please bring it up front and hand it to one of our DPD staff members located at the left. When that agenda item is called, you will be given an opportunity to speak. At this point, I would like to read our conflict of interest statement. The adopted policy of the Land Use Control Board requires that any member of the board recuse himself or herself from any participation in the discussion or voting on any matter on the meeting's agenda in which he or she may have direct or indirect personal interest. The member shall vacate his or her seat during deliberation on any matter from which they have recused themselves. An abstention may substitute for recusal for the purposes of maintaining a quorum. I would now like to get approval of our minutes from the last minutes. May I please have a motion?
I so move, Madam Chair.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I assume we're all ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, nay. Motion carries. At this time, we will have director's remarks by Mr. Zena.
Well, while Mr. Penzis does that, the last time we brought a ZTA, it was in November, and Dr. Pritchard, you made a request that whenever we have ZTAs going forward, that we bring you a little bit of a heads up beforehand. So that is the purpose of my remarks today. In August, the City Council passed a resolution asking our division to study the extent of non-conforming billboards in the city as well as the county, but primarily the city, and to look at ways in which we could incentivize removal of non-conforming billboards in order to primarily see removal of billboards from neighborhood areas throughout the city. So we took a few months, completed an inventory of billboards throughout the city and county, and the majority of those being non-conforming, and then looked at what some other cities had done with respect to creating exchange programs whereby billboard operators could convert a non-conforming billboard, which otherwise would not be allowed to be digital, convert those to digital in exchange for removing a certain number of other non-conforming billboards. The range in which we observed in other cities was anything from 3 to 1 to 15 to 1. In some instances, this was done through an ordinance or a change in the zoning code where it applied universally. In other instances, it was done contractually with one particular operator who wanted to digitize one or more billboards, and so in exchange, the city, St. Petersburg, Florida comes to mind, where they allowed Clear Channel Outdoor to digitize, I think it was 5 billboards in exchange for removing, 70 or 80 billboards. But that was done on a contractual basis. They later came behind that and put in an ordinance where they did basically a 10-to-1 exchange that applies citywide. So after giving that presentation to the City Council, the sponsor of the initial resolution, who is Councilman J.B. Smiley, asked us to go forward with introducing this ZTA, which we filed last week. It will be on your agenda for next month. But it essentially tries to accomplish two things. One, it has some cap provisions where there are still a couple of areas where we can limit future billboards. So one example that we're trying to clean up is that within the Unified Development Code, billboards are required to be along an interstate highway. And so one of the proposed changes that we have is to clarify that to be that it's Interstate 40, 55, or 240. Because if we have future interstates be designated, for I-22, Lamar Avenue, or I-269, that obviously is going to open up new territory. So making that change would cap it at the interstates in which we have now. Another example of a cap provision is to clarify that one would not be able to get a billboard as an allowed use as a part of a planned development. We had a case like that recently that was approved by the City Council, and it has been problematic. Primarily because the state of Tennessee also licenses billboards, and they do not recognize planned developments as proper zoning for billboards. And so the operator in that case has had extensive troubles. And so it'd be nice to just go ahead and clear that up so that we don't see those again. What this ZTA also does is to create that exchange program, and what we are proposing is a base trade rate of 10-to-1. Digitized billboards would not be allowed within 500 feet of any residential zone, so that's going to diminish the eligibility of which billboards could be digitized in the first place. And then they also have to be located in certain commercial zones and obviously the industrial zones as well. And so again, that would limit the eligibility. Just as Jeffrey's getting my PowerPoint up, I'm wrapping up. But we would also allow for, on the exchange side, that 10-to-1 ratio to be reduced if the billboards that are coming down are in certain districts like residential districts. So if you're taking down a billboard out of a residential district, you're going to get double credit for that, because what we're trying to do is encourage certain behaviors here. Removal of billboards out of residential communities by allowing the market to digitize where they might not otherwise be able to, but in areas that are more intense commercial, more industrial in nature. So we'll obviously go through the finer points of the proposal once the item is presented to you on next month's agenda. But Dr. Pritchett, I did want to respond to your request by giving you that heads up as a part of my director's remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zena. Okay, Mr. Ragsdale, may I please get a second? Okay.
I just had a quick question. How have the billboard owners and developers, users, how do they like this approach or pushback, or they love it, or what's their attitude?
I wouldn't say pushback, and I wouldn't say love either. I think for those that I've spoken with, their mood is that in principle, they're generally okay with exchange programs that allow, digitization of billboards that they wouldn't otherwise be able to, in principle. But the devil's in the details, and so I think over the next month we're going to see how devilish those details are.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Zenas. Before we turn it over to Mr. Ragsdale for a secretary's report and explanation of today's procedure, we'd like to say happy birthday month to Mr. McKinnon. Okay, and I hope I didn't leave anybody out this time. Okay, Mr. Ragsdale, may I please get a secretary's report for this month and an explanation of today's procedures?
Yes, ma'am, and let the record show that Mr. McKinnon is here for the meeting, and happy birthday again. So, and I just want to say thank you to everybody for your patience with us today in moving up to here, and Director Zena for going through the presentation without us having the projectors, but now we're up and going for the meeting. So the council chambers have the same kind of technical difficulties, so glad we were able to get that up and running. So. At the beginning of today's meeting, we will establish a consent agenda for those items where no one in the audience or on the board is requesting an individual public hearing. After the consent agenda is established and approved, we will move on to the regular agenda. For each case on the regular agenda, the DPD planner will give a presentation. This will be followed by the applicant's presentation and any testimony from others who support the application. The applicant and supporters will be given a total of 10 minutes. Following each speaker, the chair will ask the board members if they have any questions for that speaker. Next, the opposition will be given a total of 10 minutes to present their case. Following each speaker, the chair will ask the board members if they have any questions for that speaker. Finally, the applicant will have 3 minutes for rebuttal period under the same rules. Excuse me. Following all the presentations and after all parties have been heard, the chair will ask the board members if they have any additional questions for anyone who spoke. Then the chair will close the public hearing portion of the case, entertain a motion on the matter, discuss, and then vote on the application. If an applicant or any speaker would like to be heard after the conclusion of the public hearing portion of the case, or if a board member wishes to hear any additional testimony from any party for additional clarification, a motion will need to be made along with a second, and then a 2/3 affirmative vote of the board is required to reopen the public hearing portion of the agenda item. If the public hearing is reopened, both the applicant and the opposition will be allowed an equal amount of time to provide additional testimony. After the additional comments, the board will close the public hearing portion of the case and deliberate and take a final vote. Again, if any member of the audience wishes to provide testimony in support of or in opposition to a case, he or she will need to fill out a speaker's card. These are available at the front podium. Speaker's cards are not required of applicants since their names are already part of the public record.
Thank you, Mr. Ragsdale. The board is a supporter of community involvement, and we welcome neighborhood comments and feedback. We are respectful of the fact that many of you have taken off work or adjusted your schedules to be here today, but we ask that your comments be made within the time frame allowed. If there are multiple speakers, please try not to be repetitive so as to make the most of your side's 10-minute time allotment. Lastly, I ask you to silence all your cell phones so as not to interrupt or disturb anyone during today's proceedings. We are now going to move to our consent agenda. With our procedures now explained, I would like to introduce to my right Ms. Lisa Wilbanks, who will be this morning's consent agenda chairperson. Ms. Wilbanks, would you read the items, please?
Yes, ma'am. Item number 1 has been withdrawn. Item number 2 has been withdrawn. Item number 3, case MJR 22-67 in Buckingham Farms. The request is a convenience store with gas pumps at 4670 East Shelby Drive. Staff recommendation is hold for 1 month. Item number 6, PD case 22-25 in Cordova. The request is an amendment to a planned residential development at 7524, 7530, 7556, and 7580 Raleigh LaGrange and an adjacent parcel. Staff recommendation is approval with outline plan conditions. Item number 7, case Z21-11 in Whitehaven. The request is a rezoning of approximately 0.355 acres of residential single-family R6 to commercial mixed-use 1 at 1110 Byfield Drive. Staff recommendation is hold for 1 month. Item number 8, case MJR 22-70 in the airport adjacent area. The request is a time extension for a 180-foot CMCS tower at 4160 Sweeney Road. Staff recommendation is approval. Item number 9 has been withdrawn. Item number 10, case MJR 23-02 in Lakeland adjacent. The request is a major modification to add an out parcel on Cobb Road and to decrease the front setback for lot 6 to 5 feet for a proposed mini storage building in the 64-Cobb Commercial PD at the southwest corner of Cobb Road and Highway 64. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item number 11, case MJR 22-03 in Whitehaven. The request is a time extension for SAC 13-701 to close a portion of Coughlin Drive between East Brooks Road and Stonebrook Avenue. Staff recommendation is a hold for 1 month. Item number 12, case S23-04 in Raleigh. The request is an 11-lot major residential subdivision of plus or minus 1.65 acres at the northwest corner of Roper Road and Cypress Road. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item number 13, case SD 23-01 in Whitehaven. The request is to dedicate a portion of Stonebrook Avenue and Sandbrook Street. Staff recommendation is a hold for 1 month. Item number 15, case Z23-01 in Fraser. The request is a zoning change from residential single-family 10 to commercial mixed-use 1 at 2245 Fraser Boulevard. Staff recommendation is approval. Item number 16. Item number 16 is the resolution of the Land Use Control Board, and the request is adopting certain amendments to the Memphis 3.0 Comprehensive Plan. Staff recommendation is approval. And item number 17 is a resolution of the Land Use Control Board, and the request is recommending that the Memphis City Council adopt certain amendments to the Memphis 3.0 Comprehensive Plan. Staff recommendation is approval.
Okay, I failed to read this part. If you wish to discuss one of those items that she has just read individually, please come forward and give us the item number and we will pull the case. Next, we will vote on the remaining consent agenda items as one vote. And following the vote, we will hear the cases that were pulled. Does anyone want to pull anything?
She does.
Have you already given your card?
Yes, I given my card, but I did not hear mention the number 4.
Because it's pulled.
It's
It
pulled.
will be held. I mean, it will be discussed.
Okay. Okay, now anybody want to pull
There's a
anything?
gentleman right there.
Item number 14,
It's pulled, we're gonna hear it. Okay, all right. The items on the consent agenda will now be voted on with one vote, subject to the recommendation of DPD. If the consent agenda is approved, only items number 4, 5, 14, and any other will be heard. 4, 5, and 14 will be heard. Can I get a motion, please?
Yes, ma'am. Move to approve item number 3, case MJR 22-67. Item number 6, case PD 22-25. Item number 7, case Z 22-11. Item number 8, case MJR 22-70. Item number 10, case MJR 23-02. Item number 11, case MJR 23-03. Item number 12, case S 23-04. Item number 13, case SD 23-01. Item number 15, case Z 23-01. Item number 16, and item number 17.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion on any of these? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now we will go to our regular agenda. Dr. Pritchard?
We'll start with agenda item number 4, MJR 22-69, Cordova. Correspondence to PD 00-375, major modification to allow a gate to be installed across an access easement at 8100 Macon Station Drive. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions.
Is the applicant? Not yet. Okay. Is the applicant present? And I believe Mr. Gill is going to recuse himself.
I am. I'd like to recuse myself.
Okay. All right. The applicant is present. Is there any opposition present? There is. Okay, we're going to hear the case.
We're having some technical difficulties. I do have a presentation, but it looks like I'm not able to connect, so I apologize for that. Kendra Cobbs, Division of Planning and Development. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I think we're gonna, yeah, that's it. So I won't have to wing it. Okay, I apologize again.
It's okay.
So this is MJR 22-069. It is a major modification request to an existing plan development, 2000-375. The applicant is Gil Macon Station GP, and this is at 8100 Macon Station Road. So looking at where this is located, this is in the Cordova area, and the map to the right, it shows the vicinity, and we did send out notices to the properties within the blue, and the subject property is the highlighted yellow in the center. The zoning primarily, this is a planned development, so it's surrounded by other planned development cases, and the underlying zoning is conservation agriculture. And the zoning map to the left, that does show the subject property that is in yellow. And looking at the land use map, it is pretty much commercial uses other than to the southeast. There is an institutional use, and that is an event center. So images of the site, this is a request to add a gate across an access easement, and we have photos of the gate that is located within the development. So looking to the northeast is the image to the left. That is actually from behind the shops of Cordova Station, and that's looking northeast. And you have a Dixie Queen that is to the right, and then also Macon Station Road. And the other image is from the backside of the shops at Cordova Station. And so these are just alternative or additional images of the site showing the gate within that access easement. And then you also see the newly constructed and opened Whataburger that is over here in the corner. And then this is an up-close image of the gate. It is not a permanent structure. It could be moved if necessary. And so these are the plats that, the typo, these are the plats that govern the plan development. So we do have Cordova Station Plan Development amended. This is a phased development, and there have been various amendments throughout the history of the development, which was actually, the development started in, I believe, 1987. So this plat that we're looking at The orange shows the shops at Cordova Station, and just a highlighted image to the right, just a blown up image of that. And that was platted in 1998. And then you have the other part of the plat within the development. This is on the other side of the access easement. You can follow my cursor here. The gate is in this area up here. And so this is a site plan that also shows the entire development and the location of the gate. And so the plats that I have just talked about, this is the shops at Cordova Station, and then over here is the other part of Cordova Station plan development, the plats that I highlighted and already discussed. So in conclusion, the applicant is requesting an amendment to the outline plan conditions of an existing plan development and would like to add a security gate across the access easement that is located between Phase 16 Parcel 1 and Phase 23 Parcel 1A of the Cordova Station plan development. According to the applicant's letter of intent, the ingress-egress easement is was added during the development of the shops at Cordova Station in 1998, and it provided internal access within the development from Macon Road. And the request stems from the property owner's attempt to limit any illegal activity within the development, especially in areas that are less traveled. And the security gate is not permanent, and the posts are, as seen in the pictures, the posts are on either side of the landscape island. And so staff recommends approval of the request and approval with revisions to the outline plan conditions. And the revision would be the underlined section. So it would be within the outline conditions. It already says that internal circulation is required between all phases, sections, and lots of parcel 1 and 2. And so the addition or the revision to the outline plan would state, number 1, parcel 1A, phase 23, a security gate across the 24-foot wide ingress-egress easement is allowed. And that concludes the report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Cobb. Do we have any questions of Ms. Cobb right now? Okay, we're ready for the applicant to make your presentation.
Brown Gill, 8130 Macon Station, Suite 114, Cordova, Tennessee 38018. I'd like to allow the opposition to take their time, and then I'll come back and talk about it.
Okay. So the opposition, would you divide your time and come up to the microphone, please? Have a total of 10 minutes between the two of you.
Thank you. Okay, hi, I'm Audrey Anderson. I'm the owner of the Pie Folks. And we've been at that location for about 10 years, not 10 years, about 8 years. And all of that time, that fence has never been there. And now that they put that fence there, there's absolutely no reason for that fence. But what it does, I called code enforcement regarding the fence, and they told me that fence shouldn't be there. And one of the things that could pose a situation for emergency vehicles to get back there, you know, if someone were to get sick, you can't get back there. And we have, our customers can't find us, and they call. We get calls all the time, how to get here, and their GPS is sending them all kinds of crazy ways. And so that, I understand. One person told me that the fence was put there because there was a robbery in the center or something. One of the, because we were adjacent to Gill property. And a robbery happened on one of Gill's property. Actually, I thought all of it was the same center, but it was not. And so when they put the fence there, it took one customer 30 minutes to find to get to us. And then some of them call and they give us and say, well, I'm on my way, and never show up. And so it's safe to say that for every one customer that can't find us, then it's another 5 who can't, the ones who call. And so we're losing business. Our business has gone down exponentially since that happened. And I know they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and I'm not even a million, but I think I deserve to be treated fairly. And one thing about the center where Cordova is stationed, people are supposed to be, because the main thoroughfare is Germantown Parkway, and everybody has to come in that way. And by that, and when they put that block right there, that limited the interest to people getting to us. And so, if code enforcement say this shouldn't be there, I was really surprised that we're actually having this hearing. I thought there was a done deal. They would call and tell Gill Property, hey, you need to move that fence. But apparently that's not it, because I'm here today. And but anyway, for I know what I was going to say. The infrastructure of how it's built. Everybody, the centers, you can't turn around. Are y'all familiar with Cordova? How it is Germantown Parkway? Okay, Germantown Parkway goes, and they didn't expect all of that growth, and it's a lot of growth. So, and you just got one way in, Germantown Parkway, and so you have to make an illegal U-turn if you need, because you're not supposed to make that U-turn. So if you miss it, you miss it, or you just got to go around a long ways. And so, Ron, help me here. Okay, I'm doing good. Okay. Okay. And so, they're made where every center has to cross. If you're in one center, you're supposed to be able to go all around that thoroughfare. But that fence there's no need for that fence. I took pictures, but she already has it up there. But just long story short, there's no reason for the fence. And if a burglar, if they put it there for the burglars, they're coming anyway. They're gonna, figure out and drive around and get there anyhow if they're gonna rob something. So it's just a
point of it is we're trying to get where the customers can come in easily instead of being discouraged because of the fence is there and they can't find another entrance to get in because they're so used to coming in that certain way that kind of just blocks it off, and people get discouraged, and we tired of our customers, calling and asking us, can we tell them another way to get in? And that's not good for business.
And there's another situation. But that's probably going to be for another one where another thing. I don't know what happened, but the what's that called, that street? Whataburger. Yeah, Whataburger. They are there, and ever since it's been there, people could cross from our center but that's another story. So, but I'm just letting you know that it's just a mess. We're just losing business all the way around. But they put Burger King, Whataburger. They can't come across and get to our shop because that's there. And I got a picture of that, but I just think they got this pod sitting here. They don't supposed to have that parking lot. They don't supposed to have that storage pod there. And they took up too much of the grass where people can't drive through the center. You're supposed to be able to drive all the way across, the block.
So now there's just one way in to get to us. It used to be like 3 or 4 entrances where you can get to our store, but there's only one way you can get in now. And if you miss that one way, you just bad,
And people, they just don't come. People don't like to be inconvenienced. We moved from Germantown to Cordova, less than 4 miles. we lost a lot of Germantown customers because I'm just bringing up this point. People don't want to be inconvenienced, you know. They don't want to drive 4 miles to come, you know, because they say, oh, you just moved too far. So we just come on holidays. So that's it. But, I mean, that fence has got to go. It needs to go.
Okay.
And you all need to move. Even if you don't move it, you need to at least open it. You don't have it where people, certain business hours, at least until 6 o'clock, you know, because I think all the businesses, they are closed around right now at 6. So at least open it up until 6 o'clock and close it after 6.
Okay. All right. Do we have any questions of the opposition right now before we listen to the applicant?
I do.
Okay.
So your store is facing, so just because I don't know exactly the configuration of that, of where your store is, where the entrance is. So what I understand is that your store may be facing Germantown Parkway, but there's only one way in and out at this point, where before there were several, but because from the pictures, it looks like the gate is really at an access to, you know, for deliveries. It doesn't look like a consumer entrance. It looks more of like a delivery entrance. So I'm trying to understand why that impacts your business as much as it does for your customer.
Okay, because people are supposed to be able to drive around from Whataburger that way, and the people from, what's that other, Dixie Queen, they used to drive around that way. But now they have to go way down to, a whole nother block, Gateway, by Gateway. So the only way we can tell them now, you got to go through Gateway. And they can never find it. They put it in their GPS. Take people 15 and 20 minutes to get there, to get here. Just, you know, because that's, I mean, if you're familiar with Cordova, everybody just kind of know you're supposed to be able to drive from one center to the next center. Yeah. That's how, I mean, that's just how it is, way it was made, and that's where it's been. I mean, when they put that Whataburger there, you know, they fenced that off. I didn't know they was gonna. We thought, I went to our landlord, and they said, well, that's there because they're gonna begin construction. So, you know, we think, okay, well, you know, it won't take them probably about a few months to get the construction completed. But after they completed the construction, they took away all the parking space. I mean, they took it where people still can't come across now.
Another entrance got blocked.
That's another entrance block. But I'll be here again for that if need be.
Okay. Any more questions? Is that answer? Any more questions before we get the applicant? Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. As far as the center, you guys are right next to Starbucks?
No, the next little.
It's right next door to where you guys are, though, like the center.
We're closer to Whataburger.
They're up here on the screen, the shops at Cordova Station.
Yeah.
So they're in there, and it's the second unit in.
So next to the virtual reality almost.
There used to be, yeah, but they're gone.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that impeded them. They lost a lot of business. They finally had to go.
Sure, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm a commercial practitioner, so I represent a lot of tenants, and finding them locations. I have yet to represent a tenant at this particular location. And I guess when you're looking at real estate, one of the biggest things that you're looking at is ease of access.
Right.
And that's typically done on the design phase of the property. This particular property is, I'm pretty familiar with it. It's kind of struggled over the years. And most of that is because of the ease of access and what you're implicating and you know, discussing now. I can't see it from a rear standpoint of entry that impedes everybody or, you know, 90% of your customers. My wife has a business in this same exact area, so that's why I'm very familiar with it. And
in the same strip.
Yes, and we haven't had any. She hasn't discussed with me any loss of customers due to the fact of access or anything like that. In fact, I'm actually, and I'm just tell you I'm in support of it because they work in the morning hours of 5 o'clock, in the evening hours of 9 and 10 o'clock at night. So that allows them that safety, seemingly some safety from people coming in and out of that property, just passerbys or whomever it may be. There's been a number of cases, and we've talked about it before, where people have been parked in the back of that building, sleeping there, just day in and day out, and even vehicles being broken into back there with cataract converters being stolen, wheels being stolen, just a number of things. So it's I'm just saying it's quite hard for me to kind of imagine that you guys are, and I hate it. I mean, and that may be something that you guys look at as well, is actually relocating because of the ease of access on this particular property as well. And I'm happy to help if that may be something that's needed. However, I just, this fence, I don't see it as a.
I think we may be talking about a different business. What business is there that your wife?
I prefer not to.
No, because there's nothing. I know everybody there. And
Texture Studio. It's on the backside of that property.
But that's the problem. That's on Gill.
Yeah.
That's Gill property. Okay, so I'm sure you're gonna.
They don't have any furniture. They don't have any frontage on Germantown. Okay. So for a business to survive on the backside of,
they're on the backside, but we're on the front.
You have frontage to Germantown. Germantown has about 50,000 vehicles per day going up and down, and most of the time, most retailers say if we can get 1% of those people to come to our business because they see the location, that means we're successful. In this particular shopping center, that is really not the case. However, this shopping center has changed hands a number of times, and tenants have left, came in and out a number of times as well.
But we're talking about two different centers. We're not talking about the center where we are. You're talking about, so that's apples and oranges, what you're talking about.
I'm referring to it when now.
I mean, you're not even talking about the same center. I don't even know, I didn't even know anything was back there. So, this is a whole different situation, a whole different center.
Sure, I understand.
We have drastically lost business. So I don't know what your wife does, and I wish her well, but she's not in the same center that we are in.
Definitely.
So it is no comparison. I don't even know why you even, said that, because there's no correlation at all.
Okay, well, we're going to let the applicant have their 10-minute time to explain their side of the story. Okay.
Thank you all. And I am sympathetic to their business up front on Germantown Parkway. Kendra, do you mind putting on the plat that shows the whole Cordova station? Yeah, that's really helpful. So, and what I'll do is I'll go over there and point out, but just while I'm on the mic, I just want to say a few things. One, the gate itself is, we own both sides of the ground that the gate is attached to. So both posts are on Gill Properties ground. Secondly, we're in an epidemic of crime. In the last, just since January, I'll just say, just since in the last 2 days, I've had 10 car break-ins between the two buildings that we own on this site. I have videos on my phone of yesterday's 3 cars that were broken into at my office. My own bag was stolen out of my car. Basically, we have too much access. It's so easy for someone to drive in there. What they do is a guy sits in the back seat and they pull down. Just yesterday, so we own this building and this building. My office is here. The pie shop is right in here. And the gate system's here. One thing I'd like to point out is all the ways to access Cordova Station. So you can, if you're heading north on Germantown Parkway, you can enter here. You can enter, this is now Whataburger, and this is not Dixie Queen. So you can enter here. You can drive behind this building, which is a retail building. The dentist owned. This is Gateway, so you can enter here, you go to the roundabout, and you go up here and access Pie Studio. Obviously, you can come off Cordova Station. There's a cut in the median here, so north and south traffic can access Cordova Station, access here and here. Also, anyone going up and down east or west on Macon can also access back here. But the crime is the problem. So basically what's happening is bad folks are coming off and they're coming in all of these and they're robbing cars along here, along here, along here. They threw a brick through Ladding Speed Shop, which is this cool bike shop that's located here. Stolen things in the back of where Elmero keeps his truck. We are having, we're in an epidemic. I have hundreds of cars being broken into or carjacked or stolen. And so we've had to take this layered effect, which is security, which they can't cover all of these 2 buildings. We also own all the vacant ground, which is roughly 10 acres. And even when security's on site, what we've realized talking to the security guards and watching videos is the car is it's their truly like their tool. They don't do this on foot. What they do is they get the car that they're in to go as close as they can, and they jump out, and in less than 45 seconds, they can break into 3 cars and get back in and then drive away. And even if you identify it and the police officer's there, they will not chase them because they're not doing anything violent. So they turn on their lights, they ask them to pull over, and they don't pull over, and then they lose them and they go on with their life. So, and they're typically driving stolen cars. So yesterday's was a stolen car. We don't know what else to do. We find that gates are super effective. In addition to security and extra lighting, Ferguson gave us lighting that we're going to be putting on all the poles at a lower distance and shoot bright light. But it's not just happening at night. It's happening. Yesterday's robbery was at 4:46 p.m. It's happening at 10 a.m. I had my property manager make a list. This is just since January. And, it ranges from 6 to 10 cars being broken into on a weekly basis, just since January. We've been dealing with this now for about a year. And so we find that a layered approach of gates, so restricting car access and security and lighting has been the ticket, and working directly with the police. Out there, we're at the Appling Station, and Colonel Moffitt is head of that station. We've met with him. We're having another meeting with him tomorrow with all of the tenants in the center because we're really fed up with this activity, and we don't know what to do. Certainly, you don't want to build retail and restrict access to it. But, it's the last thing in the world you want to do is affect any of your tenants' business. But it's gotten to the point we have to be diligent, and we need to take a layered approach to access. And so this is just one step. Last thing I'll say is Loeb has started putting in, told me the other day at Aaron Way, they started putting in gates behind Aaron Way so that you can't drive behind Aaron Way because they're having so many problems in the back of Aaron Way, even with security on site in the front. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions of Mr. Gill?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a question.
We don't.
Is the gate existing now?
It is.
Okay. And you're still having the problems?
So the folks at the end, so 8100, so where Textures is, Elmero, Ladding, so the building that says gate location on it.
Right.
That building, if you talk to any of those tenants, have said they've seen a drastic effect with cars not coming around the back of the building and to the side and able to rob the cars. We don't have problems on that end of the building anymore. All of our problems now have shifted to the building at the end down here because of the access down here, because it's been easy, as like yesterday when the car pulled up here and robbed Tavern 018 and ATC cars along this. So we've got to continue to deal with this access issue and the ease for a criminal to just drive in and in 45 seconds break the car. So yeah, it's had a positive effect on that building, but not on the other end.
Oh, I see. I guess my other question was that if you gate that section off, they can come around through the other entrance and do the same thing, can't they?
Absolutely. And so we might be adding even more gates where we don't have to have approval. So we actually are talking now to all tenants tomorrow
about adding gates on either end of each building so that cars have only one entrance exit. Because these guys, and then we saw yesterday's video and we're thinking, well, how's that going to help if they're going to use Cordova Station, or I'm sorry, Macon Station, and they're going to pull up there and jump out and do it.
I see.
So we don't have an answer to this epidemic. We just know that we have to continue to try to protect our tenants.
I see. Let me
And
ask
the customers that go there.
one other question. Can you tell me where the location of the opposition's building is on this map?
Sure. They sit about right here.
Okay,
They face this direction. So the signage is here and the front doors about here.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any questions that you have of either the opposition or the applicant? Is there any questions? That's the only way you would be able to speak, is if one of the members had questions. Okay, hearing none, I assume we're ready to close the public portion of our meeting. We're going to close the public portion. Okay, can I get the...
Move approval of agenda item number 4, MJR 22-069, PD 00-375, correspondent.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, I'm, lived here all my life, and I just hate where we are right now in our city. I love our city, love it, warts and all, but there is so much stuff going on like this throughout the city. It just, I guess we could spend the day talking about what the causes are and how you stop it and, all the rest. And, I just think that if you don't get a handle on crime, then you're not going to have any business. And as I look at this, I'm so sympathetic to the pie shop. I love the fact that you're out there, but I just can't seem to, in my mind, see how that one gate could drive business down as much as there's got to be other factors in my mind. And I'm going to support this, and I do applaud the applicant to look at these other gate opportunities, and I get that. In the commercial development, you don't want to restrict access like you just said, but you've got to do something. And I think my sense is if you continue to gate this, it's going to help the overall area in crime reduction. It just seems to me like there still are plenty of ways to access that strip center on Germantown Parkway. So I'm gonna plan on, I'm looking at the site plan, but at any rate, my mind is pretty well made up. I'm gonna support the case. And I am so sympathetic with your, okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Right. But we recommend now, does it not go to city council now or not? This one does not have to. Okay.
Why did code enforcement tell me that that gate wasn't supposed to be
Ma'am, if you would like, Ms. Cobbs can speak with you, and we can make sure we can get you all the information that you need to follow up. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Pritchard, next case.
Agenda item number 5, PD 22-21, airport adjacent. Plan development to permit limited commercial mixed-use 1 district uses at 4747 Getwell Road. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions.
Okay, we have case number 5 brought before us. The applicant is present. Okay, and there's some opposition. We have, okay. We're ready for presentation by the staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board. Give me 1 second to pull this up. The location is 4747 Getwell Road. This is a plan development 2022-21. The applicant is Willie Smith, being represented by Brenda Solomito and Solomito Planning. The request is for a plan development to allow limited number of CMU1 uses. This is just a location and the vicinity of the map. The property in question was highlighted in yellow, outlined and highlighted in yellow. It is near the airport industrial park area. So not too far from the airport. This is the zoning of the map. The map is, parcel is currently zoned conservation agriculture. It is abutted on the west and south side as conservation agriculture. To the north is CMU 3, and on the right or the east side, on the other side of Getwell Road, is employment district. As you can see on the land uses, on the right side is for commercial and on the left is for residential. These are just some of the site photos. The aerial of the property shows that there is vegetation at the corner of the at the corner of Getwell, and Getwell and Faulkner. However, when you look at the Google Street view, it looks like they've cleared all of that vegetation, and which I am not sure the applicant can probably speak to if Smith family was in on that clearing or not, but they did clear that vegetation that was there, and so those are pictures of the property. This is just a concept plan of the property of the proposed restaurant retail use for this particular piece of land, and there will be access from Faulkner and Getwell Road. And so the conclusions, the applicant is requesting a plan development with the limited number of CMU1 uses. Primarily, this outline plan is to focus on retail and restaurant. I'll let the applicant speak more to the details of that, but it has been conveyed to staff that it is primarily the use of retail and restaurant uses. And these uses are not permitted by right in the current zoning, which is conservation agriculture. The property is currently vacant, and the development will create more desirable infill development. And although the property is cleared of all vegetation, there will be a landscaping plan that will be required to somewhat compensate for the clearing of all the vegetation that should have been there anyway. The proposed development will not unduly injure. The staff doesn't consider it would unduly injure or damage the use and the value of the enjoyment of the surrounding property, and the location of the structures, parking areas, sidewalks, lighting and other service facilities are compatible with the surrounding land uses. So as, and I forgot to add this, yes, it is consistent with Memphis 3.0 comprehensive plan. So staff recommends approval with revisions to the outline plan conditions, and those revisions should be found in your staff report, pages 15 through 18. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Do we have any questions for him, Mr. McKenzie, right now? Hearing none, we'll go on and hear you, the applicant name and address.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Brenda Solomito, Solomito Land Planning, 1779 Kirby Parkway, Memphis. And I have a brief presentation. That's all right. So my apologies. I had some items on the consent agenda last month, and I think we were approved on the agenda. I did not know we had opposition, and I left, so happy to be able to present to you today. And also, I have just some copies of some emails and some dates I want to submit for the record. Over the course of this last month, I think we've tried 3 or 4 times to contact the neighborhood. I just had emails. I didn't have any phone numbers, and then I got a corrected email from staff. So for the record, I do want to submit, we did try to contact the neighbors to talk and meet about this prior to today's meeting. Okay, there we go. That's the, your first slide here is sort of a regional view of the area. The property is located just south of the intersection of Shelby Drive and Getwell. This area is a heavily highway commercial use and industrial use area. If you look, you can see the land development pattern there and how the property is noted with the red down sort of in the bottom of the screen. And this aerial does show that it has trees, but also it doesn't show that there's a brand new Captain D's directly to the north of our subject property. So that Captain D's has been constructed and is fully operational today. So, and I will find out about the clearing. I know there was some utility work on some of those photos. You can see the orange barrels, either some street widening, utility work, or something that's been done. Mr. and Mrs. Willie and Bertie Smith could not be here today. Mr. Smith has not been well. If you can look at the next slide. So the property is located at that northwest corner, and it's never been developed. And the reason why we have not included the hard corner there is because it's of a different ownership. Mr. Smith has always owned his property, which is the 1.247 acres. However, he has been paying taxes and maintaining the hard corner, but it is jointly owned by a number of family members. He does not have sole control of that corner. That's why it's not included in this application. Next slide, please. During our planning process, we looked at a couple of different site plans in anticipation of working with the neighborhood. We did hold our neighborhood meeting and met with the Pastor Watkins, who is just northwest of our property, and presented these concepts with the limited permitted uses. Pastor Watkins was in support and has not submitted any opposition or concerns. And knowing that it's a small piece of property, you are limited in size by your intensity. And so we also wanted to limit the intensity by being selective on these uses. So this is one possible layout. And then the next slide, you can see the other potential layout. And again, keep in mind you have a Captain D's restaurant that shares that northern property line. So again, the character of the neighborhood is predominantly highway commercial and industrial development. So with this is a list of, and we took the approach to be very specific about the uses permitted and the uses not permitted, rather than allowing uses in conformance with a certain zoning district, because those will change. And we know that this area has some single-family residential adjacent to it. We wanted to be sensitive to that, both in design and also by permitted uses. So if you look at the uses that are permitted, you can see that a lot of it is different types of residential, some nursing facilities, some neighborhood centers, but the commercial type uses are retail and restaurants. There's some personal services and also offices and like a bakery. So low intensity, small footprint type neighborhood support services. And we have excluded anything and everything from the CMU1 that would be potentially negative to the single family residential. So we are requesting this very specific, very limited plan development. Not only we think it is a good transitional use to the CMU3 to the north and the EMP, which is light industrial, to the east, that it also can provide some good neighborhood services without having to get out onto East Shelby Drive or to Getwell. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any questions of the applicant right now? Okay, hearing none, we're ready for the opposition. Give us your name, address, and your statement.
My name is Cheryl Harper. We reside at 3648 Faulkner Road.
We have been residing there for almost 60, 70 years. It is residential, it is agricultural, and we would really much love to keep it that way. We were here 2 years ago battling a hotel or motel being, trying to be built on that piece of property. And we fought that majorly because as we were talking earlier today about every other situation that's came up here, the crime is out of control now. That neighborhood was voted the safest neighborhood in Memphis because there's low popular people living there, not a lot of heavy population there, and we would like to keep it that way. It's only a small strip of land. We do understand that businesses or people have a desire to buy land or do business. When she says commercial, there's a storage across the street. There's other properties on down that they could build this restaurant because it's a small corner. When they come in, they're gonna come in off of Gidwell. What's gonna happen, they'll have to come on Faulkner. But unfortunately, Faulkner dead ends, which is the house that I was raised in and still there. If they come in there, or if they decide that they're gonna rob whatever it is that they have that they're doing there, and the police should have to be called on the scene and they come in that street, they're gonna dead end. There's no way for them to get out of there. That street dead ends. And that's our concern with this heavy population coming. We appreciate our land use board, but we would also appreciate businesses. You have a right to do your business. We're not saying that. But we would appreciate if the land use board, city council worked with us on the last one, start listening to the citizens of Memphis. We want to be in neighborhoods. We have enough gas stations. We have the Captain D's. We have McDonald's. We have enough retail spaces there already. We've been in there. It's quiet. We want to keep it like that. We understand Mr. Smith, and last time, I don't know why Ms. Solomio didn't show up. She's trying to say that she tried to contact us. You gave a meeting at the McDonald's. We came here the last time. There was no one showed up. Mr. Smith didn't show up. She didn't show up. We're here again today because we strictly want to support this not being built on that corner. It's a small corner. I just feel that it should be put somewhere else and not on that little small corner that you turn in and out of. That traffic is heavy through there. The last meeting, I understand they were supposed to have some kind of traffic control person looking at the traffic in and out. The traffic is heavy in and out. So, like I said, we've been there all our life. We would appreciate it if it would stay agricultural and not mixed commercial, because when you say mixed commercial, when I looked that up, that could even include a hotel, a motel, or anything dealing with hospitality. We don't want that in that neighborhood. We simply don't want it. We would like to keep it like it is, quiet. And like I said, if something were to break out, people gonna have to, if they decide that the traffic is too heavy coming off of Gidwell or going out, they're going to try to come down to the end of their street thinking that they can get out that way, and they can't because their street dead ends.
Okay. All right, the next person.
Good morning. My name is Laura Payne. I reside at 3719 Faulkner. I have lived there for over 60 years. And I am opposing this commercial development because this has been a family-oriented area for over 100 years. Mind you, 100 years. Now, and it is one of the few remaining African-American communities since it began. And as Sister Harper stated, this would cause too much of traffic. We already have enough traffic there. And if you have a robbery or anything there on the corner, this would bring them to our community. And this was just the contraband of our neighborhood. We are a solid neighborhood. We're safe there. We have people there who are over 90 years old. And to bring this kind of problem there, more of a commercial, whatever, this would create just a disturbance to them. I had a massive heart attack in 2010. A massive. The doctors pronounced me dead, and I was harbored 3 times. So I need a quiet surrounding area, and this is quiet for me. This is relaxes me where I am, since I have been there practically all of my life. And the traffic flow, we already have enough of a traffic flow to get out into the traffic to Getwell from Faulkner. We can't even, this morning, in coming here, the traffic is so heavy, it took us at least 15 minutes to get out into the traffic. And to get more traffic there, this will cause more of a problem and more of a headache for the people that's there. And I am hoping and praying that you find it within your hearts to keep it as one of the few remaining African American communities, as a solid community. We're solid there. We love each other. And I love my neighbors. And I'm speaking from my heart. Thank you, and may you all have a blessed day.
Okay, thank you.
And I would also like to add that Mr. Smith does not live in that neighborhood. We do.
We do.
Mr. Smith doesn't live there. And I can understand, like I said, business is business, and he'll be able to sell the land or whatever because he's no longer there. But he's going to have to take into consideration the people that are still there.
Mr. Smith has never lived there.
Okay.
He has never lived there. His family has been there.
Okay. We understand. Is James Newsom in the room? Another speaker, James Newsom? Okay, if not, do you have any questions of?
He's there.
Oh, he's here. Okay. We're ready for your presentation as opposition. Name, address.
I don't live in the area. I just pastor church in the area and here to support member.
Can you give us your name and address?
James Newsom. I pastor church at 3695 Faulkner Road, Bethlehem Baptist Church.
Okay.
And sir, can you make sure the microphone is on there?
Sorry?
Okay.
So my position is that I was just coming to support the two ladies that just spoke. We do have a very difficult problem there at certain times of the day trying to get out because the traffic is tremendous. It is as the lady said, it's a stable neighborhood. Most people there has been there and known each other forever. A lot of them, if you remove them, if they had to leave there, they probably would be unsettled the rest of their lives. And I'm just coming to try and stand support for those people that was out opposing this project.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have any questions of the opposition right now? Anybody have any questions of the opposition? Okay, hearing none, we're ready for the applicant to give us your rebuttal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Again, the property is zoned conservation agricultural. So on this property right now, the only thing that is permitted would be one single-family residence only. And if you look back at the number of permitted uses, you can see the majority of them are residentially related or nursing homes, convalescence home, hospice. So the likelihood, and a hotel is not being requested. So a hotel is not, it won't fit on the site, it's not appropriate for the site. So what we're looking at is the likelihood of development. What is the property likely to develop as? So I would say some form of residential or some form of low-intensity support service. Again, directly to the north, you have a Captain D's. You have industrial across the street. I am very also understand and realize the possibility of traffic on Faulkner, and we would be more than happy to say only a right-in and right-out access onto Faulkner, and that will eliminate any traffic heading westward. So we can physically control where the traffic goes. Then, again, it's zone conservation agricultural. So basically you have very, like, one use permitted on the site right now. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I'd be happy to between now and city council, happy to meet with the neighbors again. If they want to discuss, I'll be happy to. I guess I'm getting the feeling, I understand they don't want anything on the property. And Mr. and Mrs. Smith will be at city council.
Okay, thank you. Board members, you have any questions of either the, okay?
I do. Go ahead.
Okay, we got 2 questions.
Is it possible
Sorry. Is it possible to do the entrance and exit only on Getwell?
Sure, we can
And
certainly.
then not have any
No access to Faulkner, sure. I mean, I know it is a dead-end street. It's a very narrow street. Absolutely. Well, we can modify our site plan a little bit as a result, obviously, but only having access to Getwell is acceptable.
Okay.
What is the plan for widening Getwell?
So that's a good question. That might be better for city engineering to potentially address. Obviously, we'll do whatever improvements are required. But again, Mr. and Mrs. Smith are the property owners. So if they get this entitlement, that allows them to market the property. But these conditions will formulate how it gets developed, no matter who they partner with. So the dedication and improvement obviously will be the burden of the developer, and they will follow city engineering's policies.
Well, I didn't know if it was anything already posed on you guys from development.
Yeah, I didn't have any of those comments from engineering yet, so I imagine that we'll work through that when we get to that process.
So engineering did reflect some comments. They were standard comments like trip generation report, egress, ingress. I would also like to say that the plan is just to emphasize the uses. So the site plan hasn't even been finalized. So there's plenty of room for negotiation on how we orientate the landscaping, how people exit parking. There's plenty of room for that. I just want to emphasize they're really primarily asking for low intense uses at this point. So.
Got it. Do they come back to see us at another point, at a later point?
If you would like that to be a condition for final site plan approval, that can be added.
Pretty familiar with Getwell. I know the traffic in this particular area right here, it is pretty bad. The roads are horrible right here. Yeah, okay.
We'll be happy to come back for final site plan. But and that's kind of the reason why there's some flexibility in how it is planned, and especially now working with, how is the Captain D's, because they obviously are only facing Getwell. So now we take that into consideration, and we'll come back for final site plan.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, not to come at you guys, I just see a real big problem. Pro-development, but I also want to understand how to make things work and work for the best for everybody at the same time. Create win-win situations. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Not a question, but just a comment. I think Getwell is important because of its connection to North Mississippi, and it's such an important road from State Line south of Church, and it's such a north-south corridor, much like Hex Cross is. Many of those other north-south roads between DeSoto County and Shelby County they're not easy to traverse. Unfortunately, the die is probably cast for Getwell to continue to have commercial growth between State Line, all the way north of Shelby Drive. So, I feel like the die is kind of cast for Getwell.
It's almost pinched right there when you because it does widen up once you pass. I guess maybe Holmes, I think that is. It's more of a 3-lane on either side, but in this particular area, it's just it crunches down to 2 lanes and then opens back up once you cross north on Shelby Drive. You do get a little bit wide, and so that's why I was asking. I don't think Captain Deeds came before us. However, I would have, pretty much asked the same thing because it is such a tight little space right there.
And recently, just to let you know, within the last 4 or 5 months, I've had 3 or 4 projects on this area of Getwell, say south of of Shelby Drive and Shelby Drive area. So the growth is coming, and so I know it's on city engineering's radar.
Sure.
Madam Chair?
Okay.
Just a quick comment. I think that's a great solution to limit the access onto Getwell because that'll protect the neighbors. I can't see that property ever being single family. And I think Brenda's done a good job of taking all the stuff that could be detrimental to the neighborhood. And I think putting uses that'll actually support the neighborhood, that this development is going to kind of turn its shoulder to the neighbors and orient toward Getwell. So I think they'll be able to maintain the integrity of what they've got. And that's a great idea, taking the curb cut off of Getwell, because now it focuses everything on the Getwell. So sounds like a good, and then bringing it back here for our final approval. I think we're protecting this neighborhood as much as we can. And so anyway, I just think this is a good solution.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Okay, hearing none, we're going to close the public portion of this meeting. Dr. Pritchard?
Move approval of agenda item number 5, PD 2022-021.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion amongst the board members? Hearing none.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to make sure we do, I know we have conditions, but there were 2 conditions that were discussed. And so if Dr. Pritchard would like to amend the motion to add those 2 conditions.
Yes, and would you please read those for us?
Yes, so what I have is access will only be from Getwell Road, and then the second one will be a final site plan will be submitted to the Land Use Control Board for review and approval.
Yes, let's add those 2. All right.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're ready for our next case, number
14.
Go ahead.
Agenda item number 14, SUP 22-33, 2453 Elvis Presley Boulevard. The request is a special use permit for a convenience store with gas pumps. Staff recommends rejection.
Okay, is the applicant here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just give us your name and address, and then we're gonna have the presentation.
My name's Ethan Sandifer, represent Timbo's Construction today, and some clients that own some businesses here in Memphis as well, and plan on doing some more development.
Okay, all right, is there any opposition?
Hey, Brett.
Okay, all right, staff, we're ready for you.
All right, just a moment, please.
Is the opposition here?
We don't have any so far.
No, okay.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Brett Davis, Division of Planning and Development. This is a special use permit request, last filed in 2022, to allow a convenience store with gas pumps at 2453 Elvis Presley. The owner is Falak Investment and Development. The applicant is Timbo's Construction. The area of the site is exactly 1 acre, and it is zoned commercial mixed use 1, which requires special use permits for this use. Here's a location map showing the site in Alcee Ball, just within the region. Here's the vicinity map showing the 500-foot we did not receive any letters before the publication of the staff report. I did receive 1 letter of opposition this morning, but haven't heard from too many people on this case. Here is a satellite photograph of the site with zoning. So we see that this corner, as well as some additional parcels to the south, are zoned CMU1. They were downzoned from CMU3 in a comprehensive rezoning that you reviewed in 2021. To the north of the site, we see that the Presley corridor is still zoned CMU3. This site was downzoned in accordance with the Memphis 3.0 future land use map, which designates it as a neighborhood main street, which generally lines up with CMU1 district goals. That comprehensive rezoning was in response to a moratorium on new gas station development approved by City Council. It was part of a response that included downzoning several sites so that gas stations would not be allowed by right, and changing the districts in which gas stations are allowed by right. So changes to the zoning map and changes to the zoning code, along with changes to where gas stations would be allowed by right. The major change was in CMU 2, taking it from by right to special use permit. CMU 1 already required special use permits. We also added certain design standards associated with convenience stores with gas pumps that require a special use permit, which I'll go over as well. To the west is single-family zoning. All right, and here is a land use map reflecting essentially the zoning map. So commercial corridor with single-family residential to the west. There's some deal of vacancy both in the residential and commercial portions of this area. Here's a photograph of the existing commercial structure on the site. It is vacant. Has that corner door typology. Here's a view from Alsea, which is the side street of Connector Street. Here's a view down Elvis Presley as it currently is. So we would require, of course, streetscape improvements and curb and gutter as part of the approval of the site plan eventually. That sign is non-conforming and would need to go. Essentially, the whole site would need to be redeveloped. Here's a view down Alsea facing the other way. I'll point out that both corners on the other side of Elvis Presley currently have convenience stores with gas pumps, and you see those in this photograph. The fourth corner is currently a dollar store, and that's to the right in this photograph. Here's the submitted site plan. So we don't have elevations or landscape plan. This is a fairly standard layout. So store to the west, closer to residential with 5 or 10, however many gas pumps in that canopy. This site plan does not meet our standards for convenience stores with gas pumps that require special use permits, which stipulates 2 possible options for design. One is that the pumps be located to the rear of the building. The other, that the canopy and the convenience store be structurally connected. Now it gets a little more complicated because Elvis Presley is a state route, and the state has a standard that the canopy has to be at least 25 feet off the right-of-way. And as part of the local design standards, in either scenario, whether it's rear-loaded, pumps in the back, or structurally integrated canopy and store, the setback has to be exactly 20 feet, whether it's the canopy or the store, whichever one's in front. Which is to say that the structurally integrated approach is not feasible here because we would require it as the city to be at exactly 20 feet, and the state would not allow that because they have that 25-foot minimum. So the code would require this site to have the gas pumps in the rear and bring the store up to exactly 20 feet on the corner from both rights of way. That presents its own issues, right? It's bringing gas pumps closer to residential issues. It might make Elvis Presley more pedestrian friendly, but it's currently not a pedestrian friendly area. We also have standards about how close gas pumps can be to residential lines, and so it might be tricky to meet all of these standards. But those changes to the site plan will eventually need to be made, and you have to figure out how the minimum setbacks of gas pumps to residential, flipping around this design and all that would work. So here are my conclusions. I think I've covered them for the most part. The comprehensive rezoning, the intent of that in response to the moratorium. Again, the future land use designation of neighborhood main street anchor, which lines up with local commercial uses. I've mentioned that it's directly adjacent to 2 other convenience stores with gas pumps, as well as single-family residential uses, which the code instructs us to consider when reviewing these sorts of requests. And for these reasons, we found that it doesn't meet the special use permit criteria. And then the final conclusion, number 7, just discusses those design considerations that would have to eventually be addressed. And we are recommending rejection with one condition requiring a full plan set being submitted to us that meets the code following council approval, if approved. I did notice that the staff report just had some extra words in that condition that didn't make sense. So those are scratched out here if approved. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davis. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Davis at this time? Okay, hearing none, we're ready for you, Mr. Sandifer.
All right. I see with approval that it would need to meet the UDC of the city. And I see that the state and the city are kind of in disagreement with 25 and 20 feet. Would the city be willing to, accommodate us if we were to say 25 feet, granting more space from the Elvis Presley Boulevard?
So we can't through the special use permit. Okay. So it'd have to be upgraded to a plan development, okay, or you'd have to apply for a variance from that standard, okay, in addition to the special use permit.
All right. I know that I've gotten an email from the head of the Aussie Ball community there, with a chain of other people in the email group there. But anyway, I responded back to him just asking, I said, if you don't like this idea, can you please, offer me some options that may benefit you as a community? Because I'm sure that a vacant lot does not do so. But I would also like to mention, I don't know what the crime is like in this area, but we've developed another property in Cleveland, Mississippi, my hometown, in a lower income area that is kind of plagued with crime. And one of the specific features that I've added was a pretty high-tech security system, camera system that is monitored 24/7 by an outside group. And that keeps up with all the vehicles, persons traveling through the area, anything like that, which would definitely help with keeping up maybe with suspects that commit crimes in the area. And all those records can be held for 30 to 60 to 90 days. So if the police have any crimes in that area, we may be of assistance in kind of helping find the suspects. But, we can accommodate with a finalized site plan. If you'll have us back, we'll come back with a finalized site plan.
Would you like for us to hold this?
Yes, ma'am.
Until you come back?
That would be great. Yes, ma'am. And I can have a site plan that I'll try to accommodate the city and the state as best I can, as well as my customer.
Then, Madam Chair, I move that we hold this item so that the applicant can get all of the details put together.
Okay, do we have a second to that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to hold it. We have a second. Is there any discussion?
No, but I did want to talk to the applicant. But you can go ahead and continue.
Okay.
Okay. Do you guys think this would be the highest and best use for the property?
I've also mentioned to my client, they're kind of fixated on oil and gas properties.
Sure.
But, they actually own the one across the street, the MAPCO there.
Yeah.
They own that same one. And I've also mentioned to them, I know with the UDC, would recommend that the gas pumps be put at the rear. And I plan on, once I leave here, I'm going to meet with my clients here about some subdivisions and stuff here in Memphis as well. But I mentioned to them, I said, what about kind of a grocery type storefront? Not like Dollar General, but, would be more your milk, bread, eggs type store. And then around back, if you needed fuel to go, 5 miles down the road to your house, you can pull around back and get fuel, which would all be lit with a canopy and everything like that. Just trying to brighten up that corner as best we can.
Jimmy, and I just looking at it, and I was just looking at the map, the Google Maps and the street view. I mean, just like you said, MAPCO is right across the street, and I guess what's that? Exxon is again across the street, dominating that corner with gas stations. Just from my understanding, I don't know what the positive in that, aside from, hey, we own our competition again. But if I just would like to, I guess what I'm saying to you is I would like to see something better there. I don't know.
my clients are, they're big on making money.
Yeah, I understand.
Any way that they can. And anyway, they're trying to actually catch that traffic on the other side of the road. I mean, seriously, they do their own private studies. They sit there for days on end and watch each car that comes by and check on the neighborhoods and see what, is their apartments down the road or whatever. And they do their own studies. But that's pretty much why they want that corner, is owning their own competition.
Yeah, I get it, man. Like I said, I just would love to see something else there. But I mean, if nothing else is going to go there, then
I think we can brighten it up, especially from what it is now. Anything would be a benefit. If we just knock the building down, put a security camera up, that might help the community. But yeah, I think we can. I think I'm going to meet with them, and I'll talk over the grocery type store to see what they like about it and see what maybe they don't like about it. But if the city wouldn't mind, or the land use board wouldn't mind holding it for us, we'll bring a final site plan.
Yeah, I was actually going to say from the economics of it, what you would have to go through to make it conforming, it seems like a very big investment to, again, split your sales, because you do have 2 other gas stations, so maybe people don't want to make a turn, but I would think that something else that didn't have to go through, both the competing interests of the city and Elvis Presley, state regulations, I think there's a better use than a gas station.
And I can kind of explain that, since they own the one across the street. If they wanted to make repairs to it, they could hike the prices on the gas, driving the customers across the street, giving them time to develop the one across the street. So they have a plan of balance there. And I'm serious. The guys, they don't really care about the price tag. They want what they want, and I'm just here to try to get it.
I think Josh should worry. This guy's going to take over entitlements. You're a breath of fresh air.
Okay, call for the question.
Yes.
Okay. No further discussion? I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor on the whole, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. You have your whole. Is there anything else that we have today to announce?
No, ma'am.
Okay, hearing none. Meeting adjourned.